how bullish this is once the Fed does cut rates. Can you explain?
Yes, when we look at how rate cuts affect different equities, one of the things is that it's a really good time to get into small caps right about when the Fed has cut rates by about 200 basis points. And so we're already at 100 right now. And obviously we're looking at 25 or 50 in the next 4 months. So we analyzed over the past 40 years, there have been 7 instances where the Fed has cut rates by 200 basis points. At 6 out of those 7 instances, small caps outperformed large caps by an average of about 10% over the next 6 months. So if you're thinking about repositioning your portfolio, this is absolutely a time to think about getting into small caps, even though they have been horribly underperforming. And this is largely just because of the higher Fed rates. But as we're getting cut, really think about repositioning and getting into small caps, because this is absolutely the time that you do want to think about getting back in.
Genius approach. I got to say, I've never heard this before, but it does make a lot of sense. And you're talking about small caps. Are you talking about a small cap mutual fund, ETFs, or individual equities?
It's your small and your mids. They really trade in tandem. When you look at the different benchmarks and indices, very similar returns with similar volatility. So you can do either just index funds, certainly individual stocks as well, but across the board, when I'm looking at outperformance 6 out of 7 times in the Fed, that includes the mid-cap benchmarks as well as the small cap benchmarks.
And you are talking about also with the next 4 meetings, what the Fed has left this year, the consensus overall is looking at least 2 cuts in those final 4 meetings. What happens if the Fed continues with this type of easing policy into 2026? Does this further accelerate that growth in the small and mid-cap area?
I would say the one thing that would be dependent is, are they accelerating it because we see a real problem with the economy? And so that would be the big caveat. That might push that acceleration of small caps until people feel confident again. Because obviously small caps are very sensitive to rates, but they're also very sensitive to sentiment. And so if people are feeling very conservative and risk off, we're not going to see that huge outperformance until people start feeling confident again. We're still seeing relatively strong performance. We're still seeing very good earnings, which we've been seeing within the market this year, and we're looking in for forecasts for the next 4 quarters. I think that would be a great setup to still get into those small caps.
Watch the full episode of Buy, Hold, Sell by clicking on the link in the description.